For more about Oktoberfest and how it helps the economy, Klaus Larres is a professor of history and international affairs at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill, and also a beer expert, apparently. It's good to see you, Professor. You know, in all seriousness, this is not just about beer. This is about life getting back to normal. This is about people having fun again. This is about getting the local economy rolling again in Germany. How important is this?
Absolutely, but it is also about beer and having a good time and going back to tradition. You know, the Oktoberfest was cancelled for the last 2 years. That was quite a profound shock for many tourists, for the locals in Munich and Bavaria, and also for the finances of the city of Munich. The city of Munich expects to at least make revenues of 1.5 billion euros from the spectacle in Munich. And they expect a lot of tourists. 1/3 of the 7 million visitors to the Oktoberfest are expected to be tourists. They also need hotel rooms. They need to eat in restaurants. They will also go to sites, do lots of other things in Munich and the surrounding area. And that will bring an awful lot of revenue to the city of Munich and the state of Bavaria. So it is really about finances, about profits, but it's also about going back to tradition, how it was in the years before the pandemic.
What does this say about Europe and how they're managing sort of post-COVID, if you will, getting back to normal? I mean, this is almost symbolic, right? Because we've been hiding in our homes for the last couple of years, and and I speak about Europe. They have really struggled. They dealt with the very early on stage. Then they had wave after wave after wave of sort of half lockdowns, half shutdowns, and I feel like Europe does certainly deserve to have a moment of celebration. This feels symbolic, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and of course, as you know, Europe is having a very difficult time right now. There's the Ukraine war, there's tense relations with Russia, there's the energy crunch, there is still, the pandemic around. Though, of course, people expect that the pandemic has run its course, that the worst is over, but we cannot totally exclude new infections and another wave of infections in the future. However, people have decided, and the authorities of Munich have decided, that it's time to actually move beyond the pandemic. And hopefully, of course, they are right, that there will not be any serious consequences from so many people gathering together and, and possibly infecting each other.
We often talk about the economy, as you know, and also the impact of inflation. And we don't often talk about the impact of inflation on, say, tourism, and certainly not beer, for example, but beer and food and inflation. There is an impact there. Is the impact positive in the sense that, okay, they spend more money and people are willing to pay more money for beer, it doesn't affect the number of people going, or is the impact, I guess, negative because of inflation? I've heard both arguments.
Yeah, I think Europe has actually benefited from a tourist boom this summer. And that probably has something to do with people wanting to go out, wanting to travel to foreign countries again and to other parts of their country, which they couldn't do during the last 2 years. So I think right now inflation is being absorbed. People seem to be ready to pay more for a mug of beer on the Oktoberfest, or more for flights to the city of Munich to be able to go there. Whether that will be an enduring phenomenon, we don't know. Once this year has passed and this Oktoberfest is open, perhaps people will then think, well, I don't need to come back that quickly, and prices will be important. How much flights are, and whether there isn't a recession, whether people lose their jobs or not. But we have to see. This year, it seems that people are forgetting about economic problems and financial looming dangers in the financial sector, and they want to enjoy themselves. And of course, having a beer at the Oktoberfest and dancing the night away at the Oktoberfest, going to amusement fairs in Munich and the surrounding area is for many people what they like to do. And I think, we should really wish them all the best and think that they deserve it, because the last 2 years have been tough, and the current climate, the geopolitical climate, the economic climate is also tough. So perhaps everyone deserves a bit of a break and have a beer or two at the Oktoberfest, though that beer has gone up significantly in price, but still it really tastes the same as 2 years ago.
Well, Professor, here's a statistic that you will, I think, appreciate. German beer sales rose 3.8% in the first half of 2022. Now, this despite all the inflation and the stress that was going on in Europe. So as an economist, they've always said that it is the most anti-inflation category, which is drugs, alcohol, and a few other things. But really, the point is beer seems to be a constant no matter what the economy is doing. Professor, it's great to see you. Thank you. Next time we will have a real beer. How about that?
That would be very nice. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.